Hello, second graders. Today in Reading and Phonics, we are going to work on some writing skills, and we are going to learn about a friendly letter along with the elements of a friendly letter. So for this writing project, you are going to need, from in your binder, your Santa creative writing pattern with his head and his beard. And if it's stapled together, you can nicely rip it apart because you're going to be cutting these out anyway. You'll also need your pencil and crayons. And then lastly, you'll need scissors and a glue stick. Now let's start with our elements of a friendly letter. So to write a friendly letter, you will need these parts. You'll need the heading. So when I think of the heading, I think of my head. So writing a letter is a lot like your body. You start with your head. Then you have the greeting, and when you greet someone, that comes out of your mouth. That's your words. So you might say good morning, hello, goodbye. Well, I guess goodbye would be not a greeting, that would be a closing. But anything where you greet somebody, that would come from your mouth. So a letter also has to have a greeting. Then you have to have the body. Your letter has to have some parts to it, some body parts to it. So think of your body. You have your stomach, you have your knees, you have your legs, you have your chest. That's all parts of your body. So your letter is going to have lots of body parts. Then it's going to have the closing. This is where we say goodbye. And think of that as your ankles. And then the last thing is going to be the signature, and that's going to be your name. And think of that as your feet. So that's the last thing that you put on a letter. Now let's go through each part more in depth. So the heading of a letter should contain the return address. So if you want somebody to write back to you, you would put your address on there. And that way they can write you in return. Today we're not going to do a return address because most of you don't have your addresses memorized. And so I would rather just skip this part. But your return address will have your street address. So this is Mrs. Murphy's return address. So over Christmas break, if you wanted to write to me, I would love for you to write to me, and I'll return. In return, I will write back to you. So this is my street, 832, that's my house number, 250th Avenue. And then you need your city. I live not in Fairmont, but I live outside of Fairmont, so my city is Fairmont. Minnesota, that's the state. And then the zip code for Fairmont is 56031. So you guys all have your addresses. So when you write an official friendly letter, you will need your address. You'll also need the date. So today's date is December 18th, 2020. So we will for sure put that on our letter. Now, after you do the heading, you have your greeting. So your greeting means hello. Usually all the words which are part of the greeting are capitalized. Make sure to put a comma after the greeting, okay? So make sure you put a comma. So in this case, our greeting might say Dear Santa, comma, okay? That is our greeting. We're greeting Santa by saying dear. Dear Santa. So as you can see, capitalize the D on dear, the S on Santa, and then the comma goes there. Now this kind of deer is not like Santa's reindeer. This is like you're greeting Santa. Now the body of the letter contains the main message. Each paragraph should be indented. So as you can see, this is not starting way over here. This first word, I put a finger space. And so this first word says, I've been a good girl this year, Santa. How are you and Mrs. Claus doing? Are the reindeer ready for Christmas Eve? I know I am ready for Christmas Day. So do you see how when I wrote my letter to Santa, I was greeting him by asking him how he's doing, how Mrs. Claus is doing. I told him how I have been this year. I said I've been a good girl. And then I told him I was kind of ready for Christmas Day, and I asked him if he was ready for Christmas Eve. So that's going to be your first paragraph. And yours has to be a couple sentences long. Now the next paragraph, you're going to also indent. So you're going to put a finger space. You're not going to start Santa over here. But this next paragraph, you're going to tell Santa what you want for Christmas. So I said Santa, comma, I would really like a puppy this year, and maybe you could bring me new books and games. I have something for you too. We bake some frosted sugar cookies just for you, and I will also leave a carrot for Rudolph. So do you see how I told Santa what I wanted for Christmas? So you're gonna have to tell Santa 3 things that you want for Christmas. And then if you can add anything else to your letter, for example, I said I baked cookies for him, and I frosted them, and I'll leave a carrot for Rudolph. So if there's anything more you could add to your Dear Santa letter to ask them or to tell him, that would be wonderful. The more details, the better the letter, the more interesting, and Santa will enjoy it more. Now, the closing. The closing means goodbye. The first word of the closing begins with a capital letter. A comma follows the closing. So a lot of times we use this big word sincerely. And sincerely means goodbye in a very fancy way. So it says sincerely, I'm being very thoughtful, I'm being very kind, goodbye. Then you put a comma. Then the last thing is your signature. Now your signature is your name, and it tells who wrote the letter. So my signature would be Mrs. Murphy. Your signature is going to be your name. Now, let's put it all together. So when we look at this letter, your address won't be at the top. But if you write official friendly letter, you'd have your address. We'll put our date over here as December 18th, 2020. And over here, we'll start with our greeting. So this is our heading. Here's our greeting, Dear Santa, comma. And then here's the body of the letter that Mrs. Murphy said I wrote. And then I have my closing. And then I have my signature. Okay. Now, let's start your Santa letters. So Mrs. Murphy is going to help you get started on this. So what I would like you to do is I would like you to find this first page here. Okay? So this first page is the top of your Santa letter. And what I need you to do is, with your black crayon or pencil, maybe start with a pencil and then trace over crayon, is I would like you to write your name on the top of Santa's hat. So maybe write your name up here or up here, okay? And write it nice and neat, just your first name. So Mrs. Murphy's gonna write right up here, Mrs. Murphy. Okay? Then what you are gonna do is you are gonna color Santa. A lot of kids don't color his face, and when they come to me, I say, Santa isn't that white. He's not white as snow. So make sure you use like a peach color for his face. And then you can look up a Santa hat to see what colors you want to color the Santa hat. What color is Santa hat? We know that Santa's beard is a lot of times white. So if you want to just leave it white, that's fine. His eyebrows might be white, but you can color his eyes. Okay? So color this as you want. And then you will cut around the outside, right on that black line as best as you can. Once it's all colored. And then you'll have the first piece of your Santa creative writing pattern done. Okay, and Mrs. Murphy is not cutting perfect. I know you guys will take your time. I'm just kind of going a little bit faster just so that you're not watching me cut the whole time. Okay. Now, the next part, after you get his face done, is to do his beard. So you can see how I cut that out. Now, on his beard, this is where you're going to do your writing. But as you can see, I'm gonna bring this up close. We're gonna have to glue this on the top line. Do you see that top line there? That is where you're gonna have to put the glue. So I do not want you writing on the top line, because if you write on the top line, you're gonna have no place to glue that. So please skip the top line and let's start with the second line. So we are gonna write first. And if you need to pause the video as Mrs. Murphy is going, please do. Okay, now this top line, we're not gonna write anything. On the second line, we're gonna put the date, but instead of writing out December, we're gonna put the number for December, which is 12. So the date is always on the right side. So over here, not on the top line, but on the second line, we're gonna put the date as 12, and then we're gonna use a little hyphen, dash 18, dash 20. Okay. Now, we went to the right on that one. We're gonna go back to the left. And on this one, we're all going to write dear, D-E-A-R, and then Santa, capital S-A-N-T-A. Then we need to put a comma. So we got our heading, we got our greeting. Now we need the body of the letter. So I want you to ask Santa a question. Maybe you should start by saying if you've been a good girl, or not a good girl, or a good boy, or not a good boy. So I'm gonna start, and you certainly can copy this first one, but I'm gonna say, and I'm gonna indent by using a finger space. So I'm gonna put my big thumb, and on this next line, I'm gonna indent. Dear Santa, I have been a good girl this year. Now you're going to sound out the words as best as you can. If you can zoom in on Mrs. Murphy's video to see it really close, you may copy that. However, if you're a boy, you want to write that you're a boy, not a girl. So, dear Santa, I have been a good girl this year. Next, maybe I need to ask Santa something. Maybe, how have you been? Maybe I'll ask him, how are you? And then I can say, and Mrs. Claus, and the reindeer, and the elves, and the elves. And I'll put a question mark because I'm asking a question. Whenever you ask a question in a letter, that gives the person that's reading it the opportunity or chance to write back. So if you ask them questions, they should be able to write back to you. Okay? Pause the video if you need to copy that, but maybe come up with something else. Now, this is going to be your first paragraph. I know it's a short paragraph. Normally paragraphs are 4 to 5 sentences, but we're just second graders, so I would like at least 2 sentences for your first paragraph. Okay? Now, I'm going to move this up, so if you need to pause, pause. Now, the next line is going to start right here. And I'm going to indent because I'm going to start a new paragraph because I'm going to tell Santa what I want for Christmas. And I'm going to say, for Christmas, I want, and I'm going to think of 3 things. So you guys need to think of 3 things too. So I'm going to indent and I'm going to say for, and I'm going to capitalize Christmas because it's a holiday. For Christmas, I want. Now this is where you tell Mrs. Murphy and Santa what you want for Christmas. Okay? So I'm going to do a first blank, and I'm going to put a comma, and I'm going to do a second blank, and I'm going to put a comma, and I'm going to do a third blank. Oh my goodness. If I put 3 things, I need the word and. And. Okay, so you're going to fill in these blanks. Now Mrs. Murphy will do an example. Because I think I said I want for Christmas, I want some books. So I'm going to put the word books. I'll just say the word toys. You guys might say more in depth what kind of toys you want. Books, toys, and games. So I have 3 things. Take one away, I have 2 commas, and the last comma goes before the word and. So look see what I have. I said, for Christmas, I want books, comma, toys, comma, and games. Forgot my S. Now, I'm going to write one more sentence. Maybe I want to say, hope you have a good year. I hope you come to my house and bring me presents. I hope you're ready for Christmas. Mrs. Murphy is going to write, or you could even say, I will leave you cookies and milk, and that's what I'm going to write. So my next sentence to end it, I'm going to say, I will leave you cookies and milk. Okay? Now, I might put an exclamation mark because I'll say that with excitement. If you need the pause video, you can certainly copy that if you want to. You can also say, if there's room, Merry Christmas. You can tell Santa Merry Christmas. But I'm running out of room and you might need to. So we could write sincerely. Or I was just thinking, another word you could put is love. So you get to pick one. You either can write sincerely with a capital S, and I'll spell it here for you with a comma, SINCERELY, or you could write love, because maybe you want to tell Santa that you love him. So you could write sincerely in your name or love in your name. And then, of course, on the bottom line, you're going to write nice and neat, your name. Okay, pause the video if you need to. Just to review, you are going to need, at the top, to greet Santa, maybe ask him a question, tell him if you've been good or naughty. Then, in your second paragraph, you're going to tell him what you want for Christmas. And then maybe a little message to him, like you'll leave him milk and cookies, or ask how his reindeer are, or tell him Merry Christmas. And then on the second to bottom line, you're going to put sincerely, comma, or love, comma, and then your signature, which is your name. Now, once you have this all written on your paper, you're going to cut out his beard on the black lines and take your time. I know Mrs. Murphy's kind of going a little bit fast here, and mine's not going to be perfect. Tomorrow when I write my letter to Santa, I'll take my time. Okay? Then, when you have it all cut out, you're going to get out your glue stick, and you're going to put some glue on that first or that top line. Okay? So I have mine cut out. I'm going to put glue. Watch Mrs. Murphy. I'm going to put glue on this top line here. Just like this. So see, I put glue there. And then I'm going to put this nice and neat just over the top here, so that like his mouth or his lips there are at that very bottom of that first line, so that you can have your date here. Okay, and press down really hard. Okay, when you're done, keep this in a safe spot, because you will turn this in after break, and then I will put it on some red or green paper, and I will put these in your memory books on how to write a friendly letter to Santa. Take your time, do your very best, try to sound things out. If you don't spell things perfectly, it's okay, you're just second graders. And I can't wait to see your Dear Santa letters. And have a great Christmas, and hopefully you get everything that's on your list.